welcome to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. My name is Justine, Treasurer of the FirstU Board. It's good to be with you. With current COVID restrictions, we are bringing you Sunday services again from home. Please take care during this time. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Following our service at 11:30 a.m., please join us as well for our virtual hospitality hour. You may find the Zoom link on our website at firstunitarianottawa.ca or in our weekly email newsletter, the EUU. During these times, it is more important than ever to sign up to receive that EUU, to check our Facebook page and our webpage for notices and updates. Please note that we are still accepting applications for the music director job posting. Also note that motions will be brought to the AGM on June 6th with respect to campus development, and that motion materials will be available on our website by the end of the week. And now some announcements from the Ministerial search team. The search team is happy to announce that Reverend Eric Meter is our candidate for settled minister. You may have received this special email announcement. The board is really looking forward to getting to know Reverend Eric Meter in a virtual meeting this coming week. Please check the past Friday's regular EUU for a list of virtual events through which you too can begin to get to know him. This list, the announcement, and additional information about Reverend Eric are now posted on the minister search page of our website. And don't miss your first opportunity. It is a fireside chat between Reverend Eric and two members of the search committee tonight at 7:30 p.m. To observe this live, you can find the link on the minister search page of the website. If you miss it tonight, a recording link will be posted this coming week on our website's minister search page. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are a part of our spiritual community.
Good morning, everyone. My name is John, and I am delighted to be your worship associate this morning. As Justine mentioned, do look at our Facebook page, website, and weekly EUU emails for information about all the happenings in our congregation. Some announcements to highlight. The Canadian Unitarian Council National Conference, Sustaining Our Light, will take place virtually May 14th through 16th. The program includes a national intergenerational Sunday worship service on May 16th at 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern. There will be parallel programming for youth and young adults. Look to the EUU or CUC website for registration information and other details. On Tuesday, May 4th from 2 to 3 p.m., the Social Responsibility Council will be hosting a line dancing event on Zoom for members of the congregation and the community with Jody Benjamin, a local musician and choir director of Shout Sisters at Rideau Park United Church. The cost is $20 per ticket. Please mark on your check that it is for line dancing and send it to the finance manager at FirstU or make arrangements for an electronic transfer. Money raised will go to an affordable housing project. If you, in signing up, please contact Kathy of the Poverty Action Group or the office at uuoffice@firstunitarianottawa.ca to register by Wednesday, April the 28th. Announcements from the Environmental Action Group. Earth Day is April the 22nd. This is the last week for our food challenge, Week 9 action. Give yourself a point for each food grown or produced locally. Buying locally decreases the carbon footprint of long-distance transport and supports farmers in your area. Admittedly, this will be less of a challenge in a few weeks. Next week, we will tell you how to send in your challenge results. And please, you can still contribute to our recipe booklet. Send your favorite vegan recipe to Suzanne Schaller. There is a link to Suzanne in the EUU or on the Climate Confrontation page. Number 2, and please join us for a special Earth Day Enviro Advocacy message. Joe Biden has called together world leaders for an Earth Day Summit on April the 22nd and 23rd to demonstrate that the US is serious about climate action. Follow the link in the EUU or on the Climate Confrontation page and sign a petition imploring world leaders, including our own, to strengthen climate targets. Number 3, Facebook users, remember to follow us on Unitarians for Climate Action. And finally, don't miss this week's Enviro Bits for some challenging ideas. Should the Ottawa River be granted personhood and legal rights? Now, please welcome our minister, the Reverend Patricia Guthmann Haresch.
Bonjour. Good morning, everyone. Today we will honor Earth Day, which is coming up this week. Is it April 22nd? But before we do, I want to take a moment. And light a candle before we light the chalice. As many of you know, I'm from the States, and this past week was tough. If you pay attention to the news, a week of remembering and focus on police brutality, mostly against people of color, and another mass shooting. I want to light this candle to hold the pain, the grief, the rage, the loss that is sitting in me and sitting in many at this time. So let us hold this candle, this light throughout our time together this morning. And let us shift our focus again back to Earth Day and the chalice. I read from the late Basil H. Johnston's Honor Earth Mother. Mr. Johnston was a member of the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. The earth is our book. The days, its pages, the seasons, paragraphs, the years, chapters. The earth is a book, alive with events that occur over and over for our benefit. Mother Earth has formed our beliefs, attitudes, insights, outlooks, values, and institutions. We owe the earth our all, more than we can take in, more than we can say. We can never return anything but our respect and thanksgiving. But maybe this morning we'll talk about other ways we can return. I'll light the chalice. Let us sing the chalice song.
Chalice, chalice, burning bright, help remind us with your light of how we'd like to live each day with love and truth helping lead the way.
Hi to everyone, it's Nao, your Director of Religious Exploration. Hope everyone is doing great. Today I'm sharing with you a little story about a bird. Once upon a time, there was a bird made of stone. She was a beautiful creature, and she was also magic. She lived near the entrance to a picturesque forest between two mountains. The bird was so heavy that she had to walk along the ground. Despite this, she enjoyed looking up at the trees every day, dreaming of one day being able to fly and enjoy viewing the beautiful countryside from up high. But that dream disappeared after the Great Fire. All that was left of the trees were charred stumps, and any plants and animals that lived there had gone. The stone bird was the only form of life able to survive the fire. But when she saw what had become of the forest, she was overcome with sadness and couldn't stop crying. She cried and cried for hours, then days. She cried with such feeling that her tears were wearing away her stone body. Finally, the body was completely worn away, and the bird had turned into a puddle of water. But when the sun came out, that puddle of tears evaporated into the sky and became a happy little cloud, which could fly over the trees and see everything below. Since then, the little cloud has traveled all over the world, enjoying the views of all the forests and beautiful countryside, and remembering what destruction fire brought to its own forest. The cloud is now very careful to pour its rain down on any trees it sees burning. I hope you enjoyed that little story. It was titled The Stone Bird. And remember to check the EU for RE lessons and for when we have Zoom sessions with UU kids. Wishing you all a great Sunday. Bye.
Ancient mother
This is the time when we can send our earnest hopes or wishes, which some people call prayers, to those people who we care about. I invite you to think about your relationship with this community and how it can support you in the good times and the not so good. Think about your hopes and your hurts and how sharing them with like-minded people can make you feel. In these COVID times, it is more difficult to get together, especially now that we're in another lockdown. So I urge you to stay connected to the people you care about by phone or by Zoom or in person if you can do so safely. Let us also lift up those who are persecuted for their beliefs, those who have experienced the ravages of war or the pain of bigotry, those whose lives and livelihoods have been uprooted by violent weather, those who are homeless or starving, while most of us live in relative abundance, and all those who are lonely and in the need of the company of friends, those who are imprisoned, those who mourn and are in need of comfort, those who are victims of violence, and those who are suffering from an illness of mind, body, or spirit. May they find comfort and healing in the days that lie ahead. Let us hold these people and all people in our hearts and minds. This is the time in the service where we can share our personal joys and sorrows. We do this by placing stones in water and allowing the ripples to send their wishes and concerns out into the universe where others may celebrate or commiserate. We don't have any personal stones today, but I have a few sort of general ones. Okay, many stones of celebration for everybody who has received their vaccinations. More stones for those of you with bent out of shape backs and twisted ankles. Apparently, with so many of us spending so much time at home, there has been an increase of home accidents. And some more stones for Zoom headaches. And I will add another one for COVID inertia and COVID brain fog, which many people are suffering from. A stone of celebration for the work of our ministerial search team, Amy, Jane, Jody, Lena, Mary Ella, Mike, and Phil. Thank you for all the time you have put into the effort of bringing a candidate to us and the continued work in organizing the upcoming meetings with the Reverend Eric Meter. Stones of grief for all the events related to policing, prejudice, and guns going on south of the border. May we in Canada learn from this. And I'll put a last stone in for all the thoughts and the joys and concerns held in our hearts. We will now have a moment of silence.
The reading today is Hum, a poem by Mary Oliver. What is this dark hum among the roses? The bees have gone simple, sipping, that's all. What did you expect? Sophistication? They're small creatures, and they are filling their bodies with sweetness. How could they not moan in happiness? The little worker bee lives, I have read, about 3 weeks. Is that long? Long enough, I suppose. To understand that life is a blessing. I have found them, haven't you? Stopped in the very cups of the flowers, their wings a little tattered, so much flying about, to the hive, then out into the world, then back, and perhaps dancing. Should the task be to be a scout, sweet, dancing bee, I think there isn't anything in this world I don't admire. If there is, I don't know what it is. I haven't met it yet, nor expect to. The bee is small, and since I wear glasses so I can see the traffic and read books, I have to take them off and bend close to study and understand what is happening. It's not hard. It's, in fact, as instructive as anything I have ever studied. Plus, too, it's love almost too fierce to endure. The bee nuzzling like that into the blouse of the rose, and the fragrance, and the honey, and, of course, the sun, the purely pure sun, shining all the while over all of us.
Words from poet Emily Dickinson. To make a prairie, it takes a clover and one bee, one clover and a bee, and reverie. The reverie alone will do if bees are few. We may be learning sooner than we'd like to, whether or not it takes more than reverie to make a prairie when bees are few. First of all, prairies are disappearing. More than 70% of native Canadian prairies have been lost through conversion to intensive agriculture and other modern developments. Bees also seem to be disappearing. These important pollinators are missing in action more and more. We are losing bees to a mysterious condition known as colony collapse disorder, CCD. Colony collapse disorder just sounds really creepy, and it is. It used to happen just every once in a while, an unusual phenomena when most of the worker bees in a colony would just disappear without a trace. They wouldn't return home, leaving behind the queen plenty of food, a few nurser bees caring for the remaining immature bees. But without worker bees, those left behind in the colony would no longer exist. They'd die. Around 14 or 15 years ago, there was a drastic rise in colony collapse. Still happens very frequently. What is the cause? There are theories about many factors, but scientists have come to suspect three major whammies, a triple whammy: parasites, pesticides, and infections. In the past, bees may have been strong enough to survive pests and disease naturally occurring, but pesticides may weaken the bees. More and more development by humans of natural lands and climate change causing droughts and flood and just less land make things worse by decreasing the availability of the flowers that bees so depend on. There is another theory that bees are going missing because they are losing their way. Christopher Connolly, a neuroscientist at the University of Dundee in Scotland, thinks that the worker bees may be forgetting their way home or are becoming confused. He studies bee brains. Doesn't that sound like a cool job? He studies bee brains, specifically pesticides and how they affect the bees' tiny brains. People will treat beehives with chemicals to kill mites. Farmers and gardeners treat crops and flowering plants where bees feed with chemicals to kill insects and other pests. The sugary corn syrup many beekeepers feed their bees on over the winter can contain traces of the pesticides that farmers had applied to growing crops. Only tiny amounts of pesticide will move through a bee's body, and about 1/3 will reach the brain. But in Conley's experiments, it appears that even a tiny bit of pesticide may be enough to confuse the bee, who then won't be able to find home again, where the queen and the baby bees, are waiting. The exhaust from cars and trucks are also a problem, not just the color of flowers, but foraging honeybees locate most flowers by smell, the specific ones they want. Air pollution can erase the scent that bees follow to find nectar. What might losing honeybees mean? More than a world without honey, eh? Consider all the plants that need pollinators to produce food. Berries, fruits, nuts, cucumbers, tomatoes, crops used to feed livestock. So I'm sorry, Emily Dickinson, but it takes more than reverie, clover, and a bee to make a prairie. When the culprits in the great mystery of the disappearing bees turn out to be us humans, it will take us humans to turn the tide. But what can you do? What can we do to help save the bees and our food supply? Well, when you can, try to buy or grow produce raised without pesticides. Not always so easy, but if and when we can, let's go pesticide free. If you have land, a yard, pots with dirt you put outside, plant native flowers if you can. Flowering plants and vegetables for the pollinators. Leave untended areas in your yard and gardens that you just let go. Leave them alone. Avoid the use of pesticides as much as you can around your own property. This will be better for you, your loved ones, both two-legged and four-legged, the bees and other critters. Learn about pesticide-free integrated pest management systems like many organic farmers use. It takes more work, study, and time, but you will learn so much more about your piece of land, who all lives there, and how best you can take care of your micro ecosystem. Our own religious education program started work on a bee garden in the playground area a couple of summers ago. We can grow pollinator gardens at home or at our spiritual home at 30 Cleary. Neonicotinoids are insecticides that are particularly deadly for bees. Bees have dropped by the thousands in the presence of this insecticide. Be an advocate for bees. Work on or support legislation to restrict pesticides like neonicotinoids if you see this coming down the pike or want to put it together. Consider being a beekeeper if you can. Wouldn't that be cool? Sometimes the damage we humans have done and do to the earth is devastating and overwhelming to consider. But just as I listed, perhaps we can pause and consider how we might help restore and give back to the earth. Better to do something than feel helpless and do nothing, eh? Early humans to present-day Homo sapiens have existed on Earth for around 200,000 years. Really a blip in Earth time. Perhaps we can begin counting the toll we have placed on the natural world around us from the moment when early humans killed off the last of the great woolly mammoths. Not only did those early humans lose the protein and the many tools they had from the mammoth bodies and all the uses, but mammoths frequently ate birch trees, which helped to create grassland habitat. When mammoths disappeared, birch forests, which absorb more sunlight than grassland, well, those forests of birch trees expanded, reducing the grassland habitat and leading to regional warming, which is interesting. The extinction, the loss of every species, has an impact. In the past, we may have been able to measure incidences of extinction at the hands of humans in increments of thousands of years. Then perhaps hundreds of years you would see extinctions, or then decades. But now we measure species loss with each day. Scientists estimate that 150 to 200 species, plant, insect, amphibian, bird, or mammal, 150 to 200 species goes extinct every 24 hours. I have read that species becoming extinct, it's up to 1,000 times faster than they would without human impacts. 100, perhaps up to 100,000 times faster because of humans. There are extinctions. Populations of wild animals have more than halved, have decreased by more than 50% since 1970, while the population of humans has doubled. And with each one of us, there's more of an impact, more of a demand placed on the earth. Only 5 times before in our planet's history have so many species and so much biodiversity been lost so quickly. Those other 5 times it was due to natural causes and things going on in the earth. The 5th time, that last time, was when the dinosaurs were wiped out 65 million years ago. In this present period of time, our 200,000 years, this time we are living in, is what's coming to be known by scientists and conservationists as the 6th mass extinction. I have a very vivid childhood memory of, in a sense, coming eye to eye with an extinct animal. As many of you know, I grew up in the state of Minnesota, and there was, while I was growing up, was an old natural history museum on or near the University of Minnesota campus. And I remember field trips there and trips with my family. And it was an old natural history museum. I say that on purpose. It was built in 1872 and was a perfect example of the classic Victorian museum that was overly crowded and stuffed with collection after collection of dead animals and insects. They were specimens, yes, displayed in every shape and size, stuffed everywhere, even into drawers. You could pull the drawer open and find dead animals with tags. Quite honestly, it totally creeped me out. Thank goodness they recently moved and rebuilt the museum with a much different sense of space and interconnections with the natural world and aspirations to help create a better future. Like the Mona Lisa at the Louvre, I think the most popular display at this Bell Museum was the passenger pigeon display. That's where I would always go in the museum. If I remember right, the lone passenger pigeon on display when I was little was one of the last male passenger pigeons who died in captivity. And I think as part of the display was the sad story of the last passenger pigeon, Martha. I think there was even a picture of her, who died in captivity at the Cincinnati Zoo in 1914. Only 106 years ago, when my grandparents were still young. Across the decades, I remember so distinctly that I felt like I was being stared at. Stared in the eye so plaintively by this beautiful, soft, gentle-looking creature, a living being wiped out forever at the hand of us, at the hand of humans. I would stand at the display and wish I could wave a magic wand and bring back all the passenger pigeons again. So many of us this year have been reading Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass. Professor Kimmerer is a member of the Potawatomi Nation in the States. I found a lecture online by Robin delivered to the nonprofit organization Pioneers, where she spoke of the passenger pigeon. She began, "Once upon a time, the skies over the Potawatomi homelands carried flocks of birds so fast they darkened the sky. They could take days to pass by overhead, flocks so large that their collective weight in roosting broke off the limbs of trees. She spoke of their communal nesting, all wing to wing, the way they cherished their single egg in a nest, how they shaped the forest with their feasting on oak trees, and how they came like distant wind and settled by the thousands to roost, conversing with one another, mothers, children, relatives of all kinds, in the voices which linger in the name that Robin's people bestowed upon them. They called the passenger pigeon Omimi. Robin learned that her Potawatomi ancestors understood the great flocks as flocks of departed souls, and how her people today wear bird-clad regalia of red and blue in the Omimi's honor, these beautiful colors. And that one of the early chroniclers of the abundance of Omimi was someone named Simon Pokagon, a Potawatomi leader, who would say of them that if the Great Spirit in his wisdom could have created a more elegant bird in plumage, form, and movement, he never did. Among Pokagon's people was a leader who had a daughter named Shinoda, meaning the wind blowing through, much like you can think of the Omimi. And she was Robin Kimmerer's many greats back grandmother. Like the Omimi, Robin's ancestors moved about the landscape together too, making their lives in the oak forest, where they too feasted on acorns, set their lodges in communal circles, and relatives of all kinds, wing to wing, cherishing their offspring. They gathered around the fire at night to tell stories. But someone else wanted those forests for farming, and the birds became a threat to the crops. And so in 1838, it was a year in which passenger pigeons were killed by the thousands, in traps, with shotguns, in nests, packed in salt and sent by trainloads back east. The birds became fewer, and like Robin's people, became fewer. Her people were canoe people, until those who wanted the land made them walk, until someone else wanted that forest, and they were marched away at gunpoint from all that they knew, marched from Michigan to Kansas in what became known as the Trail of the Death, Trail of Tears. So both the birds and the people were removed from the forest. I was so struck when Robin shared a similar experience to my childhood memory. She found a photograph of Martha, that last Omimi, that last passenger pigeon, and Robin says, "I felt in her gaze a lament, just like the passenger pigeon I would visit in that old museum so long ago. That sad stare of the last Omimi, of the last passenger pigeon, Robin notes how could something so beautiful, so ancient, so prolific simply vanish? What happened to the sound of their wings, and where did everybody go? They went the way of the woolly mammoth. They disappeared like so many worker bees who never came home. For Robin and the story of her people and the story of Omimi converged. Both were swept away by the same wind. She notes two winds, two worldviews met on this continent. Worldviews which color our relations with the living land, which shape our answer to the question of what does land mean? For the Potawatomi, a worldview in which a land was understood as sacred, as sustainer, as pharmacy, as identity, as home, peopled with non-human relatives. The view of the earth suddenly encountered another view, a kind of climate change in values. The whole notion of land as a set of relationships and moral responsibilities was replaced by the notion of land as rights to land as property. And what her people called the gifts of the land suddenly became natural resources, ecosystems, services, and capital. Nature as family became nature as machine, and the Potawatomi's non-human relatives, their teachers, became mere objects of consumption, things that could be owned. The turbulence of the clash of worldviews spawned the wind that tried to blow away the Potawatomi and propelled the extinction of the most abundant bird we think there ever was on earth. Robin noted, we need to remember and name this heartbreak because the same wind still threatens us all and its temperature is rising. So what do we do in our time? At the end of her lecture, Robin said if she could choose just a single teaching of the traditional teachings that she's learned to pass on that day in her lecture, it was the concept of the honorable harvest. For those who have read and are reading Braiding, Sweetgrass, you are familiar with this teaching. I will just briefly go through it. I may not even do it justice, but there is a sense in this teaching that plants and animals, the earth, take care of us, and we should take care of them. That we should learn the ways of all that is living so that we can take care of what we depend on. That we should be accountable to all lives. Among the Potawatomi, you would ask permission before taking. If you really come to know the plants in your garden, you will know when to pick and when you have overpicked. Never take the first, never take the last. So say the mammoths and the passenger pigeons, eh? Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Never take more than half. Leave some for the others. Take in such a way that does the least harm, and in a way that benefits the growth of the other living being, the plant. Use respectfully. Never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you have been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. Sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever. Robin noted that for a time, her research as an ecologist was in the field of restoration ecology. But she came to understand that it's not the land which is broken. It's our relationship to the land which is broken. Our work is to heal that relationship. The honorable harvest is a small part of that healing. May we heal our relationships with land and creatures and neighbors and loved ones. I found a prayer said to be a late 19th century Wabanaki, from the Wabanaki Confederacy. That name translates to people of the dawn or Easterner, right? The sun begins in the east. A confederation of 4 eastern Algonquin nations, I think right around Maine in the border of Canada. The prayer reminds me of the Potawatomi honorable harvest notion. The prayer is called Badagi, or Big Thunder Prayer, a 19th century prayer that seems so relevant today as we consider Earth Day this week. I will read it in part and close with this prayer. Give us hearts to understand, never to take from creation's beauty more than we give, never to destroy wantonly for the furtherance of greed, never to deny, to give our hands for the building of earth's beauty, never to take from her what we cannot use. Give us hearts to understand that to destroy earth's music is to create confusion, that to wreck her appearance is to blind us to beauty, that as we care for her, she will care for us. We have forgotten who we are. We have sought only our own security. We have exploited simply for our own ends. We have distorted our knowledge. We have abused our power. Help us find the way to refresh your lands, Great Spirit, whose waters are choked with debris and pollution. Help us to find the way to cleanse your waters, Great Spirit, whose beautiful earth grows ugly with misuse. Help us find the way to restore beauty to your handiwork, Great Spirit, whose creatures are being destroyed. Help us find a way to replenish them, Great Spirit, whose gifts to us are being lost in selfishness and corruption. Help us to find the way to restore our humanity. May it be so. Let us sing number 175. We celebrate the web of life.
We celebrate the web of life, its magnitude we sing, for we can see divinity in every living thing. A fragment of a perfect whole in cactus and in quail, as much in tiny barnacle as in the great blue whale. Of ancient dreams we are the sum, our bonds linked stone to star, and bind our future worlds to come with the worlds that were and are. Respect the water, land, and air, which give all creatures birth. Protect the lives of all that share the glory of the earth.
Words of offering. This is the time in our service that we usually accept the offering. You may go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how you might keep up with your pledge or make a donation during these COVID times. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of the congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, and loving one another.
As we extinguish the chalice this morning, words from Remember by Joe Harjo. Joe, who's a member of the Muskogee Creek Nation and was appointed U.S. Poet Laureate in 2019. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn. That is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth and how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them. Listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember you are all people, and all people are you. Remember you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language is that life is. Remember. Remember this Earth Day. Let us sing the Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Could vidas quari de justiça, ternurimo, cielo pot moi, source de vie, viens vers moi, viens vers moi.
Go in joy, go in peace, go in love, and may we cherish and sustain all living beings and the earth, this day and every day. May it be so.